History hides many secrets on dusty pages. Sometimes what is known is actually an illusion. Today, we open the fog curtain of history and we reveal the 5 most believed but actually known truths. Be ready, what you know will change. History sometimes writes heroism and sometimes lies. One of the greatest lies of the French Revolution, it began with a word that was shown as if it came out of the mouth of a queen. Well, what really happened? This propaganda cost a queen's life. However, Marie Antoinette's last words were not a ring, but an answer to the brutal pen of history. This is behind the scenes of the biggest misunderstood word in history. What is a word that is never said, becomes the symbol of a revolution? Was he his own words, or a lie that others made up? The power of the words always carries the potential to manipulate the truth. Marie Antoinette became one of the most famous figures in history because of an unspoken word. The truth sometimes remains in the shadow of a lie, and history writes these lies over and over again. Some legends are created to bring even the darkest figures in history closer to human beings. So, was Hitler's most well-known physical defect a really flaw, or a legend of war? This legend cannot make Hitler forget the true evil, but it shows us a truth. In the war, you try to defeat the enemy not only physically but also with stories. Hitler's only jug was perhaps one of the most unnecessary but most talked about lies in history. History sometimes likes to hide the truth. The legend of Hitler's single tested shows us how one of the greatest fraudsters in history was created. So, where did this legend come from and what was real? This legend proves how effective the psychological war tactics of a period can be. However, the truth was that Hitler's flaws were not physical, but mental and moral, and those flaws set fire to an entire world. Sometimes a natural disaster turns into a disaster with a human hand. Ireland's Great Famine is the bitter story of one of the greatest injustices in history beyond a potato disease. This wound, which was opened in the heart of a nation, was bleeding not only from hunger, but also from injustice. Great Famine is a wound that will never be erased from Ireland's memory, and an unforgettable lesson of history. History books tell us how only a nation of a fungal disease kneel. However, the truth is not only limited to the decay of potatoes. There is a deeper, more painful story behind this famine. While the potato fields were settled, the Irish were hungry on their land, while the food ships were full of sea. This was one of the most ruthless economic decisions in history and changed the fate of a nation forever. He was a star, shining with his passion for science, but this brightness has consumed his own life. Marie Curie's death is not only the story of a scientist, but also a reflection of the dark and unknown face of science. His discoveries laid the foundation of modern medicine, but the danger of these discoveries cost his own life. Marie Curie burned in the light of science and gave a lesson to future generations. Sometimes the biggest discoveries require the greatest sacrifices. History sometimes writes tragically the end of its heroes. Marie Curie's death is not only how great a scientist has, but it also shows how big risk it takes. So, what were these risks really? He sacrificed his health to illuminate science. Marie Curie's story is a reminder of the hunger of humanity to knowledge and the dangers of this hunger. His name is not only a scientist, but also a hero. The pyramids are not only gigantic structures made of stones, but also the symbol of a legend of thousands of years. So, was the pain underlying this legend, or a surprising misunderstanding? These gigantic structures were not built with the common efforts and pride of thousands of Egyptians, not by the bullying of a pharaoh. This fact brightens one of the most known mistakes in history forever. History is not what it is described in films. The greatest architectural wonders of ancient Egypt were made by millions of slaves, not by patriotic and talented craftsmen. So, how did this big lie come about? This story is not just how the pyramids were built, but it also teaches how our historical perception can be shaped by popular culture. The truth can sometimes be more surprising than a movie scene. As you can see, history is much more complex and full of surprises than we think. The 5 misconceptions we have created today show once again how careful history should be examined. Remember, always question and pursue the truth. See you on our next mysterious journey.